There is no land in any direction. No coastline, no road, no signpost. No glowing blue dot telling you where you are. Just open water, or endless grass, or white ice. Stretching to the horizon and past it, the same on every side. Now imagine setting out into that on purpose. Imagine pointing yourself at a single island smaller than a city, somewhere over the curve of the earth, 2,000 miles away, and actually arriving. With no map, no compass, no instrument of any kind. For most of human history, this was not a fantasy. It was a skill. And it may be one of the most astonishing things your species has ever done. Because here is the strange part. You, with a supercomputer in your pocket that knows your location to within a few feet, can still get hopelessly lost in an unfamiliar parking garage. So how did people with none of that cross oceans and deserts and ice and find their way home? The answer is going to change how you think about your own brain. Start with the most jaw-dropping example we have, the open Pacific Ocean. It is the largest feature on the planet, a third of the Earth's surface, and it is mostly empty water. Scattered across it are tiny specks of land, and thousands of years ago, people found them, settled them, and traveled back and forth between them, deliberately, in canoes. How is that even possible? For a long time, many Western scholars simply refused to believe it was. They assumed the islands must have been settled by accident, by people blown off course. They were wrong. And in 1976, that was proven in the most beautiful way imaginable. A traditional voyaging canoe, called the Hokulea, set out to sail from Hawaii to Tahiti, more than 2,000 miles, using no modern instruments at all. The man who guided her was a master navigator named Mau Piailug, from the tiny island of Satawal in Micronesia, one of the last keepers of an almost lost art. He carried no charts. He read the ocean itself. And he made it. He later taught a Hawaiian named Nainoa Thompson, who became a master navigator in his own right. And the knowledge that had nearly died was pulled back from the edge of extinction. So what was Mau actually reading? This is where it gets extraordinary. The first tool is the sky. A traditional navigator memorizes a star compass, a mental map of the points on the horizon where dozens of specific stars rise and set. As one star climbs too high to be useful, another rises behind it on the same bearing, and the navigator simply switches to it, holding a course all night long by a relay of stars. But the stars vanish in daylight and behind clouds. So the navigator reads the ocean too. Deep beneath the wind chop, the sea carries long, steady swells, generated by distant weather, that march in consistent directions for days. A skilled navigator can feel these swells in the rhythm of the canoe, in the way it pitches and rolls, and hold a heading by their angle. The anthropologist David Lewis, who studied these navigators closely, described men who could lie down in the hull and steer by the feeling of the waves against their own bodies in the dark. And there is more. Birds. Many seabirds sleep on land and fish at sea, flying out at dawn and back at dusk. Spot a bird heading home in the evening, and it is pointing at land. Clouds too. A stationary cloud may be sitting over an unseen island, and the underside of a cloud above a shallow lagoon can glow faintly with the green of the water below. The navigator weaves all of it together, stars, swells, birds, clouds, the color of the water, into a single living sense of where they are. They are not following a map. They are reading the world as one. But the ocean is not the only place humans pulled off this trick. Cross to the deserts of Australia, where Aboriginal peoples developed something just as ingenious and far older. They are called songlines, sometimes dreaming tracks. A songline is a path across the land, sometimes hundreds of miles long, and it is recorded not on paper but in a song. The verses describe the landscape in order: this rock, that waterhole, this ridge, that bend in the dry riverbed, so that to sing the song from beginning to end is to recite the route, landmark by landmark, in sequence. The researcher Lynn Kelly, who studies how oral cultures store enormous amounts of information without writing, has shown how song, rhythm, and place can be braided together to hold knowledge with stunning accuracy across generations. A person who knows the song can walk a path they have never physically traveled, because they have walked it 1,000 times in their mind. And up in the Arctic, the Inuit rate a world with almost no landmarks at all. With the land buried under featureless snow, navigators learn to read the snow itself, the long ridges called sastrugi, sculpted by the steady prevailing wind, which point reliably in a known direction, like a frozen compass underfoot. They read the wind, the stars, the behavior of animals, the subtle shape of the land beneath the white. Everywhere humans went, they found a way to turn the world into a guide. So let's reconstruct a single night on that open Pacific canoe, the way it might truly have felt. The sun is gone, and with it your last easy reference. The canoe lifts and drops beneath you. You are not staring at a screen. You are using your whole body. You feel the main swell rolling in under the left side of the hull at a steady angle, the same angle it has held for 2 days. And as long as it keeps hitting you there, you know you are still pointed where you want to go. Above you, a star you have known since childhood rises out of the black water exactly where it should. You hold it on the edge of the mast for an hour, until it climbs too high, and then you let your eye fall to the next star rising behind it, and you keep going. You have not seen land in 3 weeks. You do not panic, because somewhere ahead, you trust, a single bird will lift off the sea at dawn and point you home. This is not luck. This is a lifetime of training holding a course across 1/3 of the planet. Now here is the twist, and it turns this whole story inward, toward you. For a long time, it was tempting to think these navigators had some mystical sixth sense the rest of us lack. They did not. They had something far more interesting. Something you have too. Because in the early 1970s, a neuroscientist named John O'Keefe was recording from a part of the brain called the hippocampus, a small seahorse-shaped region deep inside your head, and he found something remarkable. Certain neurons fired only when an animal was in a specific place, moved to a new spot, and a different neuron fired. He had found what are now called place cells, brain cells that light up like pins on a map according to where you are. Then, decades later, 2 more scientists, May, Britt and Edvard Moser, discovered the next piece. They found grid cells, neurons that fire in a regular, repeating, triangular pattern across any space you move through, laying down an invisible coordinate grid in your mind, like graph paper draped over the world. Together, these discoveries revealed something staggering, and in 2014 they won the Nobel Prize for it. Your brain contains its own positioning system, a literal map built from cells that constantly tracks where you are and where you have been. Scientists nicknamed it the inner GPS. So the great navigators were not breaking the laws of the human mind. They were using a navigation system every one of us is born with and pushing it to its absolute limit through a lifetime of practice. The map was never on paper. It was always inside the skull, which leaves you with an uncomfortable question about your own pocket. Because that inner map is like a muscle, and muscles that go unused grow weak. A famous study of London taxi drivers, led by the neuroscientist Eleanor Maguire, found that learning the city's tangle of streets by heart actually enlarged a part of their hippocampus. The brain physically grew to hold the map. But the reverse may also be true. When you outsource every turn to a voice telling you to turn left in 300 feet, the part of your brain that once built its own maps may quietly go quiet. You may be slowly forgetting how to do the very thing your ancestors crossed oceans with. There is no land in any direction. No coastline, no signpost, no glowing blue dot. For your ancestors, that was not a crisis. It was simply the world, waiting to be read by anyone who had learned its language, the stars wheeling overhead, the swell beneath the hull, the bird turning toward home at dusk. They never needed a map. They were carrying one all along, the same one folded quietly inside your own head right now, waiting to see if you will ever use it.